Of all the superheroes, my favorite is Batman, and a lot of people agree, but why is it? Is it his dark image, or the fact that he's mostly based in a realistic setting, not using any superpowers? I don't know, he's just cool. But with all the different film adaptations, everyone has their own ideas of how they like their Batman. But anyway, I'm just a regular fan, so I'm going to give my own reviews of all the live-action Batman movies and express my own opinions. I won't get into the animated series just because there's too much to cover, so check it out. It's a mini marathon.
There's going to be 3 parts going through the history of the Batman movies, from the early days up until Dark Knight.
It's Cinemassacre's Bat-a-thon! First, I want to draw your attention to a 1926 silent chiller called The Bat. The plot involves a group of people in an old mansion who are being stalked by a killer who wears a bat mask and cape. He's not as famous as Dracula or the Frankenstein monster, but the fog and creepy atmosphere make this a great addition to the haunted house franchise which was going on around the time. But you're probably wondering, what does this have to do with anything? Well, quite simply because it's the inspiration for Batman. Yeah, when you see him climbing up the roof with the grappling hook, how could you not draw the comparison? But if that's not enough, he even uses the bat signal. Obviously, it's one of the biggest trademarks of Batman, but instead of the police using it to contact Batman, the Bat uses it to frighten his enemies before he comes in for the kill. In 1933, the same director, Roland West, remade his own film as The Bat Whispers. Batman creator Bob Kane has said that this was the film that inspired him to create the character, so in some weird kind of way, The Bat is actually the first Batman movie. And I bet you didn't even know it existed. And now for the rating, I give it 3 bats out of 5. In 1939, the Batman made his first appearance in Detective Comics number 27. It didn't take too long before the character made it to the big screen, with Lewis Wilson being the first actor to play Batman in a 15-part serial. Right as it begins, you see Batman sitting at a desk with a bunch of bats flying around on strings. Most people's reaction would be to laugh, and honestly, it's pretty funny. The costumes look like the equivalent of what you could buy at a Halloween store. It seems like they should have gotten a black cape for Batman. Whatever hue they chose just didn't photograph too well in black and white, so we have a very gray looking Batman. Robin's extremely young, fitting the boy wonder image, but again, he comes off as kind of silly and he looks like Eraserhead. Besides, he doesn't really have much interesting to say or do. The villain, Dr. Daka, was invented purely for the film and never appeared in any of the comics. He's a Japanese scientist who uses some kind of electrical device to turn people into mindless zombies, I guess. He's a stock cliche straight out of the mad scientist genre. The worst part is his phony accent. Of course, this was right in the middle of World War II, so there's an anti-Japanese tone to the whole thing, which makes it extremely outdated and just not right. They don't even drive the Batmobile, instead it's just a regular car. But keep in mind, the comics were still in their premature state and gradually developed the Batmobile over time. But one thing that can be said, the film serial introduced the Batcave. Here it's called the Bat's Cave. While not the most technically sophisticated film, it's interesting to watch and a fascinating piece of history. But this one's for hardcore fans only. I give it 2.5 bats on a string. In 1949, another serial was produced, Batman and Robin. The villain this time was another made-up half-ass attempt called the Wizard. Not a whole lot is different from the first one, and again, I recommend it only for the hardcore fans. So let's move on. I give it 2 bat cars. In 1966, well into the age of television, Batman made his TV debut. It begins with an animated intro with a surf music theme. The only lyric is Batman chanted over and over again. Another trademark are the choppy fist fights. Now let's talk about the characters. Batman's played by Adam West. The man has a great voice. To this day, people like to debate who is the best Batman. But West is so memorized as the role, I like to convince myself he really is Batman. Robin's played by Burt Ward, definitely sort of downplayed as the sidekick and delivering some of the funniest overacted lines of dialogue ever.
Holy molars, am I ever glad I take good care of my teeth.
Throughout the show, there is a whole gallery of villains. The Joker, played by Cesar Romero, Riddler, played by Frank Gorshin, Egghead, played by Vincent Price, Catwoman, played by a number of actresses, the Penguin, played by Burgess Meredith, and Mr. Freeze, also played by a number of actors. Here he looks like Darth Vader without the mask. All the villains are completely crazy. It's overacting at its finest. The episodes would often end on a cliffhanger, much like the old serials. And as the series went on, it started to wear out and get ridiculous. And what always sticks out to me is when Batman and the Joker go surfing. But still, it's very amusing, and a lot of the time the show plays as a deliberate comedy. A lot of people like to describe it as campy, and if that's a bad thing, then sign me up, because I love it. Only problem, the show's never been released on DVD. There's some kind of legal issue going on, so for now you just gotta catch it on TV if it ever comes on. So, I'd say go buy it, but you can't. I give the show 3.5 surfing jokers. Even though it only ran for a couple years, it has a total of 119 episodes and a feature film, Batman the Movie. The movie brings together 4 of the villains, the Joker, the Penguin, the Riddler, and Catwoman. It's great stuff. My favorite scene is when Batman's running around with a live bomb trying to find a safe place to throw it away.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
It also has one of the most terrifying sharks ever. Jaws eat your heart out. No, actually it's ridiculous, but it's awesome as long as you appreciate the campiness. Today, a lot of Batman fans hate the 60s series, like it tainted the image of Batman or something. And if you prefer a more serious approach to Batman, that's fine, I do too. But I like them both. It's a different kind of Batman. No matter what you say, this Batman is important because this is the show that launched Batman into the pop culture and introduced so many people to the character. I can vouch for myself because I grew up watching reruns of the show in the 80s. It's classic. I give the movie 4 killer sharks. But remember, you gotta put that in perspective. In 2003, Adam West and Burt Ward reunited as themselves in a television movie, Return to the Batcave. The plot involves them searching for the stolen Batmobile. Frank Gorshin and Julie Newmar both return as the Riddler and the Catwoman. Other than just the novelty of a reunion, it's not that great, but the best parts which make it worth seeing are the reenactment scenes where they flash back on memories from the making of the TV series. It's a funny and affectionate celebration of 2 guys who were on the top of the world making a crazy show and all the adventures that they got into while filming. I give it 3 Robin crotches.
Stay tuned next week for part 2.